As Neil just said, my name is Giles Councell. I'm the Audit Programme Manager for the International Powered Access Federation. I'm going to briefly talk to you about today is the developments in the powered access industry. I firstly want to talk to you just briefly about International Powered Access Federation and what we do. We're the membership association that represents the interests of renters, manufacturers, distributors, and training companies of powered access equipment. We provide our members legislative advice, health and safety advice. We provide them information with regards to the law relating to MUPs, insurance benefits. We also have a wide range of training programs that you might be aware of. We also offer our hire members IPAF terms and conditions. We do a lot of work on accident procedures and produce many publications and general information which you can all get off our website, which is ipaf.org. As you can see from the pictures here, IPAF is around for a good reason. These are not MUPs. They are not included in our training scheme, but it's two very good examples of why people need to get some training on the safe way to work at height. So what am I going to talk to you about today? I'm going to briefly talk to you about the law, assessing the risk, choosing the right MUP, and then going to talk to you about a few things that we've been dealing with in the industry, a few developments that have come up, and then briefly talk to you about operator training and familiarization. So the law. The work at height regulations require an assessment to be carried out before starting any work at height. Work must be properly planned and organised. When choosing the most suitable work equipment, you must follow the fall protection hierarchy. The fall protection hierarchy requires that you must avoid working at height if possible, use an existing safe place of work where available, and provide work equipment to prevent falls, for example, a MUP. You must mitigate distance and consequences of a fall, and you should also ensure that people are fully trained and competent to be able to do the work. An example of a risk assessment for the use of mobile elevating work platforms can be found on the IPAF website, ipaf.org. So I'm going to briefly tell you about MUPs and give you an example of all of the categories that are available. There are two versions of this machine. The push-around vertical, which is a machine that can be pushed in position manually. They're vertical machines, so they don't go outside of the tipping lines. And then a static vertical, which is driven into position but cannot be driven at height. We've then got the static boom. This comes in many different varieties. You can see here a trailer-mounted platform that can be hitched onto the back of a vehicle. They're also available as road-going vehicles. They're set up generally on jacks, outriggers, or stabilizers. They also come in lightweight models that can be taken through doors and access to areas that some of the bigger vehicles wouldn't be able to get to. Some of these models can be pedestrian-driven, which means that there's a motor, you push it into position. A mobile vertical, or a 3A. The platform ascends and descends vertically over the chassis and does not go outside of the tipping lines. It comes with a wide variety of working areas and can come with a large safe working load. They also can come powered by diesel, petrol, gas, or battery. And then finally, the mobile boom. The various types available. Again, powered by petrol, diesel, gas, battery, bioenergy. They can come with a large working area for the platform, and also can come with a large safe working load. What they generally do is provide outreach to the user. So I'm going to talk to you briefly about mube selection and what you need to take into consideration when selecting the right mube. Clearly this guy didn't select the right mube as he's having to lean right out of the cage to get to what he wants to do. I can see by your expressions it's quite frightening. So choosing the right mube. What work needs to be done? You need to consider that. Who is going to operate the mube? Is that person going to be trained? At what stage in the job will the mube be needed? And what will the ground conditions be like when performing the work? What will the access to the site be like? Is the machine going to be able to get there? How much of an area are you going to be able to use whilst operating the mube? What terrain and gradient will the mube have to cross the work position? And is the visibility and segregation adequate for maneuver? What is the maximum ground bearing capacity at the work area and along the route to and from the work positions? You need to consider whether or not the machine is going to be light enough or to be able to go across the ground that you're operating on. How many people do you need to be lifted? How many people are going to do the job? What height and outreach is required so you don't have to put a ladder in the basket just to get to where you need to work? Will the mube be expected to move in the elevated position? Are there any overhead power lines? Are there likely to be any overhead structures which the operator could be crushed against, which I'll talk to you about later? Are there any materials to be lifted, and if so, how heavy are they and how long are they? Are there any manual handling issues? What is the interface with other vehicles and pedestrians? Are there any unusual circumstances, for example, working with aircraft or rail traffic? Are you going to be doing any work inside? If so, you need to consider what fuel the machine uses to operate. And what are the wind loads that you're going to be expected to work with? When choosing the right mube, a site survey will prevent mistakes. Will prevent you being in the situation where you have to get a ladder from the platform, as I mentioned before. Will prevent you wrecking the pavement of a newly designed area. So when choosing the right mube, you need to consider the work to be carried out, access to the work area, the terrain, the work ground area, the maximum ground pressures, number of people and load to be lifted, the outreach and height required, and the fuel type, and the duration of the work that's going to take place. Operator training on the machine. Is the operator trained, and do you have proof of that? All of the above should be covered in the employer's method statement and risk assessment. Examples of these can be found at the IPAF website. So I'm going to go on and talk about some industry developments. There are a number of different guidelines that you can find on the IPAF website. There's a list of them here. We provide information with regards to safety harnesses and powered access equipment, familiarization of powered access equipment, exiting the platform at height, thorough examinations. We also provide guidance on ground conditions, the important do's and don'ts to avoid crushing, and the guidance on rescue plans as well. We also provide quite a lot of information with regards to mast climbing work platforms, example handover certificates, load charts, and thorough examination certificates. What I want to talk to you today briefly about is crushing do's and don'ts, which is a relatively new policy. Exiting the platform at height, which is a question that we get asked a lot by contractors. I'm going to briefly talk about ground conditions, access controls, and then briefly about IPAF Rental Plus. So we've recently produced some guidance on the important do's and don'ts to avoid trapping and crushing injuries. As you can see from this video, you need to take into consideration the work area before doing the job. So some of the do's and don'ts. Before moving the platform, scan the area around the platform for obstructions. Check the direction of the platform movement before operating the travel controls. Before moving the platform, repeatedly scan the area. Move at speeds that allow you to fully control the machine at all times. It's not a race. Move the platform clear of obstructions before using the mute, travel or main boom. Take into account any overrun that may happen from when you let go of when you put it to stop. There might be a slight amount of overrun. Maintain sufficient vertical clearance between the platform and obstructions when moving the platform or maneuvering the mute. Do not lean over the guardrails while the mute is moving. Do not lean over the control panel at any time. And do not place objects on the control panel. While working at height, do, whenever possible, isolate the power to the mute. Do not operate on the ground which is littered with objects. Do not carry your mobile phone while operating a mute. And do not work with loose materials or trailing leads from the platform to the floor. You must also always ensure that you've got a rescue plan in place when there's a situation where somebody's in trouble at height. And always carry out daily checks. You'll be able to find from our stand, which is just around there, these cards which have a list of pre-use inspections and also workplace inspections. They're handy little cards that you can give out to your operators to ensure that they're doing the pre-use checks before getting on the machine. We worked quite heavily with the UK-based Strategic Forum for Construction Plant Safety to develop a best practice guides for the use of mutes and avoiding trapping and crushing injuries to people in platforms. I'd advise you to go onto the IPAF website where you can download that document. It's an extremely useful document. So this is a question we get asked quite a lot. Can you exit the platform at height? Mutes are specifically designed to lift people into a position where they can carry out the work and then return to the ground. So you should only be exiting the platform when a rigorous risk assessment has been carried out and determines that that is the safest way for the job to be done. Lots of guidance can be found on this with regards to exiting the work platform at height from BS 8460, Safe Use of Mutes, which is a code of practice, and also there's some information with regards to it in the Safe Use of Mobile Elevating Work Platforms in Arboriculture. Also, a question we get asked quite a lot is what is our policy on spreader plates? IPAF's assessment of ground conditions, it says it is strongly recommended that suitable spreader plates should always be used under the outrigger feet, irrespective of apparent ground conditions. In BS 8460, it says spreader pads are often required when outriggers are placed on unmade ground, soil surfaces where underground voids might be present that could cause the surface to collapse under the outrigger. We are currently in development of a web page, which we're hoping is going to be coming up later in this year, which will be able to be used by operators and employers to be able to assess the ground conditions on the site, give you examples, so you can fully assess the ground conditions that the mute will be operated on prior to the work taking place. As I say, hopefully that will be ready in about by the end of the year. I briefly wanted to talk to you about some of the issues that hirers are coming up against at the moment. Is they don't know who's using the equipment. They don't know whether or not the operators that are using the equipment are trained. Lot of people on site borrowing equipment that they're not trained to be able to operate. The hire company has no idea who's broken the equipment when it gets broken. Operators that are fully trained for the equipment and hired the equipment turn up to the machine and the battery's flat. What we're currently developing is an IPAF Smart PAL card. Essentially what you'll be able to do is you'll have your PAL card and you'll be able to put it against the machine, and that will determine whether or not you can operate the card. Without the card, you wouldn't be able to operate the machine. Other benefits of this is that we will be able to ensure that all operators are working the machine, are trained. This will be something that will enable the employers, as yourselves, to ensure that these guys are trained. We'll be able to also get information on when they've used the machine and send that back to IPAF, so it would be a way of monitoring competency. Use it as a digital logbook. There are also other benefits that could be incorporated into the machine. For example, protecting the machine against theft. We can put devices onto machines now where there's a GPS system, so you can always know where the machine is. And also record data that can be sent back to the hire company, so it can tell the hire company when the batteries are low, whether or not there are any issues with the machine, so they can remotely access that information and try and sort out problems rather than having to wait for the hire company to send somebody down. This is something that we would like to say would be available in by the end of the year. We're also already trialling this on machines. It will be the choice of the hire companies and the manufacturers to whether they go down the route of putting this onto the machine, but obviously it depends on the main contractors to determine whether or not they want that kind of device on their sites. We also have a website on our website now, an area where you can type in the operator number of a candidate, and it will bring up a photo of that person, giving you data on what they were trained on, and when they were trained, and when their expiry date is, and to make sure that their card is valid for work on site. I just briefly, I've been given the nod that I'm going over time, so I just briefly want to talk to you about IPAF Rental Plus. IPAF Rental Plus is an accreditation system that has been designed for hire companies. It's based on independent assessment by ISO 9001 lead auditors, and it covers areas such as customer service, safety, staff training, contract terms and conditions, and machine inspection. It ensures that, for example, that we would audit to see that the hire companies are asking the right questions, so you are getting the right machine for the job on site. It also ensures that all of the people within the hire company are trained to be able to give you the information you need to be able to get the right machine for the job that's being taken place. I wanted to also talk to you about operator training, but my time has run out, so I'm going to have to stop there. But thank you very much for your time.